Hello again, everyone. Today I am going to be swatching the full line of Blockx watercolors that are contained in this dot card collection here that I got from St. Louis Art Supply. St. Louis Art Supply recently started carrying this particular brand of watercolor, and it's a brand that's not available in a lot of places. So I was really excited to see that they had this dot card so that I could test these out, because I only have one Blockx brand watercolor in my collection of tubes, and I wasn't all that impressed with it, but I might be interested in getting other colors if I have more available to me, and I know which ones I like, so hence the swatching. And hopefully this will help you too if you're interested in this brand. So they come in these different ways. They come in tubes, they come in half pans, which is the traditional way that you can get a lot of watercolor brands, but they also have these really giant pans of watercolor, and they're pretty expensive, but you get a lot. I think they're in the $20 some range for these pans, each of these pans, but it's a ceramic pan, and then you get a lot of watercolor. I don't know if it's equivalent to a tube. It's kind of hard to tell because, you know, this is dry and this is wet. Certainly a lot bigger than the half pans, but let's go ahead and see if there are any colors that I think are worth getting, and maybe there's some that you think are worth getting. So let's go ahead and get started. These brushes I also got at St. Louis Art Supply. It was a brand that I had not seen before, and I'm only going to swatch with one of these today because one is actually for oil and acrylics. So this one, they're both by a company called Gray Matters, and this is a number 8 for watercolors. It's a synthetic brush. Both of these are synthetic, I believe. And this one is a number 4 for oils and acrylics. I'll show you this one first because I'm just going to get rid of it after I show it to you. So this one I thought would be handy to have in sort of a travel kit if I ever bring acrylics. I basically haven't been bringing acrylics because A, I didn't want to ruin my travel watercolor brushes, and B, I just didn't really have a way to use them, you know, in a way that was practical. So if I can find a way to do that, and in fact, you could also use this for things like Neocolor 2, water-soluble crayons, and that sort of thing. Those I haven't really been wanting to use with my watercolor brushes either. So this in my travel kit will be a nice addition. It is a filbert brush, so it's pretty versatile, and it's got fairly long bristles. It's completely stiff right now because it still has the manufacturing material on the bristles itself. I'm not going to wet this one today, but I just wanted to let you know that there were travel brushes available for acrylics and oils by this brand through St. Louis Art Supply. And then this one, oh, and it looks like these are made in India, just to let you know that. And this one is a pretty typical size 8 watercolor brush. There's no standard sizing for watercolor brushes, so when I say standard, it's sort of like what I expect to get for most brands of a size 8, but it really does vary, and it also varies depending on the the design of the brush and all of that. So I'm assuming they're calling this Gray Matters because of the gray, the gray hairs here in the brush. So this one isn't as stiff as the other, but I still have not rinsed it yet, so I will rinse it and then use it for these swatches today. I'm suffering from some severe allergies today, so if I have to clear my throat once or twice during the video and my voice is running out a little bit because I've been talking a lot at work as well. So I apologize for that in advance. I am going to be swatching these on the Pentalic Field Book, which is a wire-bound watercolor book that has non-cotton watercolor paper, but it's really great for swatches. It's a pretty good high-quality non-cotton watercolor paper. So I may end up filling up this whole page, and if I do, I'll just go to this one across here to finish. So let's start here though. And I'm going to have this probably off to the side. Sorry, my computer just slipped down. So you may not always be able to see all of the colors, but I will try to make sure that you can see the color that I'm working with. Off to the side here, I have a pot of water to rinse my brush and a little paper towel. Yeah, this is requiring very little rinsing. It'll be really interesting to see. This is a somewhat stiff watercolor brush, So here's what it looks like saturated with water. It's fairly stiff, but I actually kind of like a little bit stiffer watercolor brushes to have some control. There's really a place for soft and harder watercolor brushes, I think. But it feels really nice. It's this part here actually feels a little better. I wish this kind of went all the way down to the end because it feels really nice, and it's not super slick, whereas this part is. So, you know, depends on how you hold your brush, where you'd be holding that. All right, now I am not going to pre-moisten these just because I don't want to make this too messy here on this dot card. So I'm just gonna go from the top, you know, moisten it as much as I can, and then put it onto my paper here. And I'm debating, I'll do this zinc white here, which is a little bit like an off-white. But I'm debating whether to do the titanium white. I think I probably will. This is actually moistening very easily. Yeah, this is going to be hard to see because zinc white, what I think is the deal between zinc white and titanium white is zinc white is a little bit more, well, I associate it with it being a little bit more transparent, whereas titanium white would be more opaque, but it's really hard to tell from this. And here is that titanium white. You're not going to be able to see these. These are some really not very exciting initial swatches, and it even looks like I touched them together because I could not tell where the color was. Let me put these a little bit sideways so you can see. So you can sort of see. This one's a pretty bright white, and this one is a little bit of an off-white. So that's obviously another difference. But these actually moisten up really, really nice and easy. So let's see. This one is nickel yellow. These are really lovely. The one that I had before was a blue, but it was just sort of a generic blue that I didn't really have much of a choice because I kind of just picked the best of the limited availability that I could find, and I don't even really remember where I got that one. So that's nickel yellow. So that's kind of an unusual color. Oh, and I should go back to, so this original off-white zinc white was PW4. This titanium white is PW6, and then this nickel yellow is PY53. It looks like a lot of these are single pigment, but there are some mixed multiple pigment colors in here. So I'm also going to see, let's see if I can move it there for now. I'm gonna put these up closer to the camera so that you can see them a little bit better towards the end, but for now I'm trying to make it so that you can see my work surface. I may change that as we're going. Okay, that one was a little bit pale. This is Naples Yellow, which is a mix. It is PW4, so it has a white in there, and it has PY35 and PY42. I'm not all, oh, it has a little bit of dust in there too. Let me try and get that out. We've been turning on the heat as opposed to the air conditioning in my house, and a lot of dust has been getting kicked up, probably causing my allergies as well. Okay, so this is golden green. Oh, this is lovely actually. Let me get a little bit more water on my brush there. Very beautiful. So I'm not really, at least I'm not starting that way, of doing sort of a fade from more saturated to less saturated with water, just because I do want to kind of keep these swatches fairly small, and I don't want to, you know, take forever to swatch these for you, because I do want to get through all of these in one video. So let's go to this Naples Yellow Red. Sorry, I may have started a thought earlier and never finished it, but so far these are really beautiful. They flow really well. This is Naples Yellow Red, which is PW4, PY35, PY42, and PO20. So that's a lot of colors. And this next one is Indian Yellow. also, again, really beautiful, really nicely pigmented, very saturated. Lovely. So that one is PY 154 and PO 73. And then this one is Cadmium Yellow Medium. I'm gonna do one more down here. Again, really nice. And this one is PY 35, so it's a single pigment. I'm gonna go back up to the top and just do rows down here. This one is Cadmium Red Orange. A lot of brands are moving away from cadmiums, so this brand actually has quite a few cadmiums. Cadmiums tend to be a little bit more opaque, and they also tend to be a little thicker in consistency, but this one actually looks very nice. They also granulate often. This one is PO 20, which is actually an orange pigment. I guess it is Cadmium Red Orange. Okay, this next one is Pyrrole Red. I've all of a sudden started making these swatches different sizes, so I'll try to get some uniformity here. That is a really beautiful red. Just based on these limited colors so far, I would definitely get more of these. Okay, so this is PR 255, that one that I just did. Very bright and beautiful red. This is Blockx Red, which is PR 254. Oh my God, these are so saturated and beautiful. They re-wet really easily. I did not need to wet these. So I'm wondering if the tube that I had was kind of old, or just was a pigment that didn't flow very well, because that was part of my issue with it. Okay, so this is Cadmium Red, which is PR 108. This actually seems kind of weak for a Cadmium Red compared to the other one. And this is another good thing about dot cards, is you can test colors out, because this is not one that I would get. I don't think you get a lot of bang for your buck on this one, because the pigment seems a little weak. But I would definitely get any of the two prior reds. Okay, so that was Cadmium Red, PR 108. And then this next one is Crimson Lake. And they claim that all of these are, what did they say? 100% light fast. That seems like quite the claim. I'm not sure if I can support that. It's hard to know without doing a light fastness test, but they claim that all of these are about the same. One of the reasons why I was thinking about that is that this color is a Crimson Lake, and lake colors sometimes tend to be a little less light fast. Oh, one thing that's kind of interesting is the tip of my brush seems to have already stained a little bit from these reds, so clearly very highly pigmented. That Crimson Lake is PR 264. And then this next one is Quinacridone Magenta, which is PR 122. Really pretty. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be going on to the page next to this, because I'm not going to have enough room for all of these. At least I don't think so. And then the next one is just plain old magenta, which is PV19. So this one is a violet, whereas the Quinacridone Magenta was a red. This is an amazing color, this PV19 magenta. I mean, look at that. It's so bright. I hope you can see that on the camera. Really nice. Okay, so this next color is Dioxazine Mauve, which is PV 23, a really saturated, beautiful purple. Really beautiful. I'm actually gonna try to add a little water to that, so because it is so deep, so that you can see what it might look like a little less concentrated. And then the next one is Cerulean Blue, which is PB36. Again, really beautiful, great texture on most of these. Really beautiful. So far, so good. Okay, this next one is Cyanine Blue. It is a mixture of PB28, PB15:1. Again, a very saturated blue. This particular watercolor brush does not seem to hold a ton of water, which is true for a lot of synthetic brushes. So it's not too unusual, but I am finding that I'm needing to go back and get a little bit more water occasionally. Okay, so this next one is Cobalt Blue, which is PB28. So definitely a lot of heavy metals going on in these watercolors. We have cobalt, we have cadmium. You know, if that matters to you, this might not be a brand. Like if you want to avoid those, this might not be a brand for you. You know, they are harmful if ingested, but generally you're not ingesting them. So you know, other than maybe the mining practices that results from heavy metals, which may not be that sustainable, I don't think there's really a health reason not to use them, because you're not eating the paint. Okay, so this is Cobalt Dark Blue, which is PB74. And it'll be interesting to see, I can already see some granulation here in the Cobalt Blue. In the printed version here, it looks like that Cobalt Dark Blue should also be granulating, so we'll see. It might be a little bit hard to tell because I'm not adding a ton of water to these. And the one that I added water to here, the pigment completely took over the water, so that's kind of interesting. Okay, this next one is Blockx Blue, which is PB15:1. Really beautiful. So this is basically like a phthalo blue. Pretty sure that's what number that is. And then this next one is Primary Blue, which is PB15:3. Another cool blue. Oh, that's beautiful too. Very beautiful and saturated. It's interesting that they would call this a primary blue because this is clearly a cool leaning blue in my eyes. Okay, so the next one is Turquoise Blue, PB36. This one looked like it had a little bit extra of the binder here included in the swatch. If they've included, in the dot card, I mean, and if they've already included that in the dot card, I kind of would wonder if it would have a separation problem. You can't really see, it's this color here, you can't really see, but there's a little extra binder here which looks clear on the paper. It's a beautiful color though, and also looks granulating. Okay, the next one is Indigo. Indigo might actually be the color I have. I mean, it's pretty, it's very pretty. I'm kind of a sucker for all indigos. Okay, and this next one is Permanent Green. Oh, so the Indigo, which is this one, was PB29, PB15, and PBK9. So there's some black in there. And this is Permanent Green. Whoa, that's super bright. This is PY154 and PG7. So it's not a single pigment green. Very bright. This next one is Cobalt Green, which is a single pigment. It is PG50. And Cobalt Green tends to be pretty opaque and granulating. Definitely opaque here. And you wouldn't need a lot of that pigment. These have had sort of varying results as far as how much pigment I need to put down. That one, you probably would just need to touch it. And this is Phthalo Green, PG36. So only that first green was a mixture. This next one is Viridian, which usually takes a little bit to re-wet. It tends to not be one that's very easy to re-wet, and it tends to be kind of pale as well. So this is pretty typical of Viridian, PG18. So Viridian can be used as an alternative to Phthalo Green because it's almost the identical color, but Viridian is granulating and is not as easy to re-wet. Okay, this next one is Gold Ochre, which is PB7. It's all right. I feel like it's a little weak. Okay, so I'm now going to move this down and move this up so that you'll be able to see both at the same time. Next one is Italian Earth. Oh yes, this one's very hard to re-wet. Okay. Earth pigments often can be hard to re-wet. So I'm gonna give it a go, see if I can get it a little more concentrated, but I'm not gonna do that a lot. It also seems to have some separation between the pigment and the binder there. And this one is Yellow Ochre. Definitely a little bit better, but still a little bit difficult to re-wet. That, you know, once it got going, it seemed to do a little better. I think the Yellow Ochre and the Gold Ochre are about the same. A little bit hard to re-wet on both fronts. Okay, this next one is Transparent Mars Yellow, which seems very transparent and not that saturated, and a little bit hard to re-wet. Certainly not as easy as like these early reds, for sure. Okay, and then we have Transparent Mars Red. Again, a pretty light color. So earth colors, you know, it's kind of mixed among brands. I probably would stay away from these earth colors from this brand just because, you know, I'm kind of leaning towards more saturated paints at this point. Partially to get more bang for my buck, but also partially to just get really vibrant color on my page. Okay, so this one re-wet a little easier. This is Transparent Mars Brown. And I just realized that I have not been telling you pigments. I think I stopped here with Gold Ochre. So that's PBR7. This is Italian Earth, which is also PBR7. There can be a lot of different variations within a particular pigment number. This one is Yellow Ochre, which is PY42. I'm sorry, this is, yes, that's right. Okay. And then this one is Transparent Mars Yellow, which is PY42. Again, the same pigment as the previous one. This one is Transparent Mars Red, which is PR101. This is Transparent Mars Brown, which is PR101 as well, but is a little bit easier to re-wet and seems to have more bang for your brush mark. I don't know. Okay, and then we have Van Dyke Brown, which is a single pigment brown. It's PBR7. This is a rather dark and almost green leaning Van Dyke Brown, and kind of thick in texture. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this one either. So far, you know, it's kind of been mixed, I think. Some are really awesome and some are just okay. This next color is Burnt Umber, which again seems a little weak. Of all these earth colors, I think the Transparent Mars Brown had the best bang for your buck there. But I think once you get these going, because I'm not pre-wetting these at all, they might be a little bit better. Okay, so that's Burnt Umber. And now I'm going to go to the other side, and given where we are on this page, I'm definitely going to have to go to the other side of my paper here. So I will rearrange accordingly when I need to do that. So this next one is Lemon Yellow. Yeah, and I probably should have gone across because these are actually across. But you know, what are you gonna do, right? Whoa, this is a very, very vibrant lemon yellow. This is PY184. I would call that almost neon. Oh my goodness. A lot of pigment for your buck there, I think. If you're looking for a single pigment yellow within this brand, that might be a good one, assuming you want neon. Okay, this next one is Blockx Yellow. Also very bright. Wow. This one is PY3. Yeah, and it's even coming off on the camera. It's pretty bright. This next one is Cadmium Yellow Pale. Also very bright. So yeah, these three are all pretty bright. I would think that you would only need one of those. This is PY35. Definitely brighter than the earlier yellows we tested here. This next one is Primary Yellow. Also really bright, but a little bit deeper. A little more towards orange. This is PY154. The next one is Gamboge. Oh, that's interesting. It's not new Gamboge. It's a single pigment. It's PY65. I'm always seeing new Gamboge, which is a two pigment paint usually, but that's lovely. I may have to look into that one. Then we have Cadmium Yellow Orange. Definitely going more towards orange. Not as saturated though. It's very interesting. The cadmiums don't seem to be as saturated in this brand. Fascinating. That's PO20. And then the last one I'm going to be doing on this page here is Permanent Orange, which is PO62. That's actually a really nice color if you want a pure orange, which is a single pigment orange, PO62. Okay, so I am going to take this off camera real quick, move over to this side. Looks like I have a little bit of discoloration from something that was probably on my desk, but we'll work with that. Putting that off to the side so that can still dry. All right, so this one is Pyrrole Vermillion. Sort of an orangey red. That one is PO73, the one that I just did. This one is Cadmium Purple. I don't think I'd ever heard of Cadmium Purple. And that's really pretty. It's actually much more saturated than the other cadmium colors. That is PR108. Quinacridone Red is this one. Whoa, that's kind of pink, I would say, more leaning towards pink. It's PR209. That's very pink in my opinion, actually. Rose Pale Lake. It's a very pretty, what I would again call a pink leaning color here. This is PV19. That was actually Rose Pale Lake, if I didn't say that, and this is Rose Lake, which is PV19 as well. I can't tell much of a difference between these two. If this one is pale, it's only slightly so. Oh, let me move that up so you can see those. Actually, what I'm going to do is move that over there and then move this up a little bit. All right, where was I? Okay, Manganese Violet. That's PV16. It's a really beautiful violet. How many did I have here? 2, 4, 6, 7. 2, 4, 6. Okay, yes. Have the same amount in a row. Cobalt Violet is next, which tends to be a color that is a little bit hard to re-wet. This wasn't too bad. Not too bad at all, actually, for a Cobalt Violet. And this is actually more of a color of Cobalt Violet that I prefer, which is a little on the pinker side. Some of them can be a little bit more purple. Next we have Ultramarine Violet, which is PV15. That one wet fairly easy, but it seems a little pale on first application, but it worked its way up. Cerulean Gray is this next one, which is PB35. If I didn't say, that one was PV15. It's actually quite pretty. It does not look gray at all to me. This looks like a cerulean blue. Kind of wondering why that's called Cerulean Gray. French Ultramarine Blue Light is this one. Really nice ultramarine. Re-wets really easily. Very nice and vibrant. This is supposedly the light version. This next one is the same French Ultramarine Blue Deep. They're both PB29. I can sort of tell that this one is a little darker than the last one, but yeah, not by much. I mean, as it's drying, maybe you can see a little bit more. This next one is Prussian Blue, which is PB27. This is a very pigmented color usually. It's no different here. Really pretty. Indanthrene Blue. It's interesting. Some brands call it Indanthrene Blue and some brands call it Indanthone Blue. But I think it's the same pigment. This is PB60. It's actually a very pretty one. Very nice and deep. It's a really nice dark blue that runs warm. Okay, now we have Payne's Gray, which I'm going to put down here. And that is not a very blue leaning Payne's Gray. I would call that more of a gray, like gray Payne's Gray. It's really pretty though. If you're looking for a nice gray, that might be a good one. It's a mix of a lot of colors though. It's PBK11, PB29, and PB15:1, which is kind of interesting given how not blue it is. But it has all those blues in there. And by all, I mean 2. So this is Turquoise Green. Actually re-wet pretty good, pretty easily. Turquoise Green is a really pretty color. Chrome Green is the next one, which is PG17. Yeah, chromium green is usually pretty opaque. Kind of a nice murky green. This next one is Blockx Green PG7, which I think is PG7. I think is phthalo green, which although this is pretty bright and dark for a phthalo green, especially if you compare it to that Viridian over there, which is super light by comparison. It's that light green right here, very, very light. Okay, then we have Green Earth, which is PG23, and in my experience is usually pretty hard to re-wet. Yeah, same goes here. I have a Daniel Smith Green Earth that is really, really pale like this, and kind of hard to re-wet. It's not too bad though. None of these have been super bad as far as hard to re-wet. Oh, and this one looks like it's re-wetting really easily. This one is Sap Green. Whoa, it's a super bright sap green. Sap green is not always the same across brands, so this is one that's definitely much, much brighter than I'm used to. This is PY154 and PG7. So you've got that really bright green in there. Hooker's Green is the next one, which is a combination of PBR7 and PG7. Whoa, this is a really pale Hooker's Green. Usually Hooker's Green, I'm seeing almost that color. It's very interesting. Yeah, that's a weird Hooker's Green. Or maybe other colors are the weird Hooker's Green. I don't know. Olive Green is the next one, and that is PY154. Oh, that's lovely. I like that. PY154, PG7, and PV19. Interesting, a violet in there. But I kind of like this murky olive green. I really like that. Okay, and then we're doing Burnt Sienna Light, which is PB7. Oh, it's definitely light. Yeah, I'm just not a fan of colors that really come off so pale right off the bat. So this would not be a favorite for me. And I've noticed that some of these show brush marks a little bit more than other brands as well. I'll kind of identify those as I go through at the end. We're almost at the end. It's going to be a long video, but thanks for hanging in, those of you that did. Okay, this is Burnt Sienna Deep, which is like barely there. That's kind of weird. Okay, here, so once it got re-wet a little bit, it showed up more, but it seems like there's also some separation between the binder and the pigment, and that's going to leave streaks for sure. Yeah, I would definitely recommend a different brand of Burnt Sienna. This next one is Light Red. Not sure that's Light Red. I have a feeling they might have meant English Red on this one, and this is PR 102. And the one after that, or this one here, is Venetian Red, which is PR 102 as well. Just sort of slightly different shades. And these are probably semi-opaque, I would say, and probably granulating. The next one we have is Sepia. Sepia is another one of those mixtures that is very inconsistent across brands. This one is a little bit more like a super dark brown, not really that dynamic in my opinion, and it seems to leave streaks too. This is PBR7 and PBK11. Okay, so that's going to granulate then if it's got PBK11. This next one is Neutral Tint. Most brands have their own unique neutral tint. This is a pretty neutral tint. A neutral tint I often use a lot is Daniel Smith's neutral tint, and that tends to lean just a tiny bit purple. This one is PBK11, PB15, and PV19. So it's going to be a little granulating again. Okay, I only have 2 blacks. Let's go over here. So this one is Lamp Black. Tends to be a fairly light black. I'm sorry, this is Ivory Black, PBK9. This next one is Lamp Black, which seems a little more opaque and dark, yes. And that one is PBK6. Okay. Actually, that black is quite nice, the Lamp Black. But let me go through these. You can see, so I do pretty much all of my swatching of different brands on this paper, and very rarely do I get streaks. So there are some streaks with some of these, and part of it could be the stiffer brush, but I think that it's also probably the brand. And I've noticed that a couple of the colors tend to be a little bit glossy. I don't know if you can see that. This one, let's see, which one was that? I think Pyrrole Red, or that actually might be Cadmium Red. It has a little bit of a shine to it, and now that I'm looking at all these that have dried already, they do have a little bit of a shine to it, and I think that's what I did not like about my other color. I'm kind of on the fence as to whether I would get some standalone colors here. I really liked this one. This one is the Magenta. That's beautiful, PV19. I think that's kind of unique. I mean, unique in that, you know, it's a really nice, vibrant, pretty color. I don't know if it's necessarily unique, and other brands wouldn't have it. You can see a little bit of granulation in some of these colors, but it's not super pronounced. These yellows are like crazy. They're crazy bright, and they're all pretty similar. Certainly these 3, which would be Lemon Yellow, Blockx Yellow, and Cadmium Yellow Pale. These 3, you know, they're so similar that I would be hard pressed to tell the difference. I think this one's probably going to be a little bit more opaque than this one, and this one might be kind of in the middle of opacity level. And those don't look shiny at all. Yeah, generally overall not super impressed. Okay, and here's these dry pretty much. There's a little bit of wetness on a couple of these. But they also seem to be prone to cauliflowering. Cauliflowering, I mean like when water comes in, you get these little blooms. So I don't know. I'd probably have to play with these a little bit to see if I would want to get more standalone colors, because I think there's better brands out there, and maybe that's why a lot of companies don't carry these. The other brand that I have used that has a little bit of sheen once dried is Renaissance, and some of these colors actually remind me a lot of Renaissance colors. I definitely thought that with the Prussian Blue. The Prussian Blue was very similar. But I'm going to stop it there so that I can let you go at 40 minutes. That's long for a video on my channel. But I just wanted to swatch those for you and do it all in one go. But I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions about this brand or any of the swatches or anything like that, just let me know down below and I will answer when I can. I hope to see you next time. But if you would like to keep track of future videos on my channel, please subscribe. If you enjoy this video, give it a like. And I think that's it. Okay, till next time. Bye.